Okay, so welcome back to this channel. So now in this video we are going to handle our filters for this project. If you don't know, we are building a complete full stack e-commerce site in Next.js 13. So in this video we will handle this price filter, category and ratings filter. So for that I simply go back to my VS Code, and first of all I have this error duplicate page detected. For that I go to my app and I delete this page.js file. So we have this page.js file and page.jsx file. So I delete this one. Okay, and then we know that in the components, in the layouts, we have our filters.jsx. Okay, in that we have all these filters, these. Okay, so let's handle that. First of all I go back. um, let's handle these checkboxes first, the category and the rating, and then we will handle this price filter. Okay, so for that, first of all, when I check this electronics, I have to add category is equal to electronics in the params. Like we have here page, I want to add here category is equal to, for example, toys. Okay, so we will set that here, and then we will get the category from here and then send to the backend to our API. Okay, and when I uncheck it, I have to also delete that from here. So we have to play with this query. Okay, so let's handle that first of all, then we will send it to the backend. So I go back, and in the page notation you can see that we have used this query params, search URL params, URL search params to handle this query. Okay, and we will use the same in our filters. Okay, so I simply close it from here, and I have to get a function that is called function handle click, that will handle the click of each checkbox. So in that I will get my checkbox. So checkbox, and I have to give this checkbox to each checkbox. So I actually go to the bottom, and we know that this is our checkbox after this default clicked. Okay, I will explain that also in a minute, but I will add here on click. Okay, we will pass in here handle click and pass in the e.target. Okay, so now it will pass the target or the checkbox in this handle click. Now we have here that checkbox. Okay, and remember that here we have given the same name is equal to category, name is equal to category to each checkbox of that filter. For example, all these filter contains name category, and all these filters, all these 5 filters contain the name of ratings. Okay, so we will get all the checkboxes by name. Let me show you that. So I first of all check that if the query param exists, otherwise it will throw the error. So I will check that, and then I have to get all checkboxes with that name. So const checkboxes is going to be document dot get elements by name. So it will get all the elements with the name, and the name is going to be checkbox dot name. Okay, so it will get all the checkboxes. For example, if the checkbox name is category, now it will get all the checkboxes of category. So now what I will do is I will loop through on each checkboxes. So checkboxes for each item, what I will do is I will simply check that if item is not equal to checkbox, then simply item dot checked is going to be false. If I go back, you can see that here user can select multiple categories at the same time, but I only want to allow user to select only one category at a time. Okay, so this if check will handle that. Okay, so if that item is not equal to that checkbox, we will simply type here item.checked is equal to false. So it will uncheck that basically a checkbox. Now to use that, I simply save it from here, and I go to the bottom. Now you have to add this on all checkboxes. Okay, so I will add that. Beauty. Okay, if I save it and go back to my Chrome, if I reload this page, okay, if I select this category, you can see that I can check this one. If I click here, I can still check this. Okay, so I go back. um, Here, oh, that is checkbox dot name. Simply save, and now if I go back, reload this page, now if I click this, you can see that now I can only select one checkbox at a time. Okay, so it will basically work like a radio button. You can also use here radio button if you want, but I want to use checkbox here, so I have changed the behavior of checkbox, and now a user can only select one checkbox at a time. Okay, so this code is for that. Okay, we will get all the checkboxes with that name, like we have here checkboxes of all the categories. Okay, and then we will log through on each checkbox and check that if that is not equal to that checkbox, then we will simply uncheck it. Okay, so now we have handled this part. Now you can select one checkbox at a time. Now we simply have to add the current or the active category in the URL param. Okay, so for that what I do is I will simply check in the handle click if checkbox dot checked is equal to false, then we simply have to delete the filter from query. Okay, else we have to add in the query. I will add here a comment set filter in the query. Okay, so we check that if the checkbox dot checked is equal to false, this means that user has unchecked some filter, so we have to remove that from the query. Else if that is true, this means that user have added a new filter, so we will set that in the query param. Okay, so for that what I do is I will simply add here query params dot delete. Okay, so query param has a function that is called delete. In that we can simply delete that. Okay, so query params dot delete. In that I pass in here the checkbox name. So checkbox dot names. Now it will delete that query, delete that filter from the query. Okay, and the same way in the else I have to add it. So for that I go to the custom pagination. I have already written this code here. I copy that just to save some time. In the else I will add this one. So for this page I will add here checkbox dot name, and for the current page I will add here checkbox dot value. Okay, so if user has clicked on some filter, we have to check that if that filter already exists, then we have to update the value. Otherwise we have to add the new value. So I check that if query param has the filter with that checkbox, then we will simply set that. Okay, we will change its value. Otherwise we will append the query and add the new filter. And in the new filter we have to add checkbox and then the value. Okay, so category is equal to electronics, category is equal to toys. So I will add that. Now we have to push the user to that basically URL. So for that I will again go back and I will use this part. I will get the path, window location.path, and concatenate the query string, query param.toString. Then I will push the user to that route. Okay, so I will copy that from here, save it, and I go back here. And after this else, I will add that, and also for the delete, I have to add that here. If I simply save it from here, so now if I go back, so now if I simply reload this page, if I click electronics, we get here error that router is not defined. We have to import the router. So I will simply import here router. So import use router from next/navigation. Okay, so I will use that here. That is going to be cons router is going to be use router. So if I simply go back now, if I reload this page, now if I click electronics, you can see that the category is equal to electronics is added in the query. If I click here laptops, now the value is updated. So in this way it will update all the values. If I click here electronics, you can see that now the category is gone because now we have deleted that from the query. If I click electronics and reload this page, you can see that electronics is still checked, and we have already added this function that is called default checked that will handle that, this check handler. So in that we will simply check that. If I scroll down, you can see that here to each check we have given a default check value. Okay, and we will call here our check handle, pass in here the name and then the value. Okay, like category and toys. And then we will check that if that checkbox value is also equal to this value, this means that that checkbox is checked, so we will return true, otherwise we will return here false. Okay, and also actually I can remove this from here and also this. If I simply save it and go back, now if I reload this page, so now it will also work. Okay, if it is laptops reloaded, now it is laptops. Okay, so it is our check handler. In the same way, if I comment out this one, okay, and I move this outside the else, save it. Now if I go back, reload this page, if I click here electronics, is added, laptops, toys. If I click here again, the toys is deleted. Okay, So we can actually remove this code from here. Alright, I just give you an overview again. We will simply first of all get all the checkboxes with that checkbox name, and we will handle that user only click one checkbox at a time. Okay, so we will loop through on each check, and then we will check that if that item in the loop is not equal to the checkbox, then we will simply make it false, the checked value. And after that we also have to add the value in the query, or add the filter in the query. We will check that if user has unchecked it, we will simply delete it from the query param, else we will set that in the query param. And after this if else, I will simply move to that path. Okay, so in this way we can handle that. So now let's also add on the ratings. We just have to add this check handler or handle click on the ratings. So I will, after this default check, I will add that, simply save it. Okay, and now if I go back, click here ratings, you can see that ratings equal to 5 4 3 2 1. If I uncheck it, it is gone. If I select here electronics and rating should be more than 5, you can see that it is also added and it is also removed. Okay, so now let's pass these values on the backend, and it is quite simple. I simply go to my app in the page. I simply copy this one, that is going to be category. Okay, so we will pass this category on the API, and we will get that from the search params. Also we have to handle here ratings, and for the ratings I have to use here ratings and use here GTE operator. Remember that we have handled this operator in our previous videos, so we will use here search params dot ratings. Okay, so it will get all the products that has rating greater than the rating that user has passed in the filters. Simply save it. And now if I go back, reload this page once. Now if I click here electronics, you can see that now we get here only 2 products that has category of electronics. If I click here laptops, now this has category of laptops, so it is appearing here. Then the toys, office, beauty, electronics, like this. Okay, in the same way we can get the products with the ratings. Like if I type here, only want to get the products that has rating greater than 5. So if I check it, I have nothing here. 4, I have this 4.5 rating product with the 4.5 rating. For the 3, I get here this one as well. For the 2, I get here more products, you can see that here. Okay, I can also select filters at the same time. For example, I want to get products of electronics, and then the rating should be greater than 4. Now you can see that this product has category electronics and the rating is greater than 4. Okay, so this means that our category and ratings filter are working properly. And now let's handle this price filter. Okay, so for that I simply go back and let's go to our filters.jsx. I will simply type here a function that is called function handle button click. Okay, then in that I will first of all check that if our query param exists, then we simply have to add the minimum and maximum price in the query. Okay, if I go back, I have to add here if there is min value, I have to add that. If there is max value, and then I also have to add that in the query, and then we will send both values to our backend. Okay, so for that what I do is I will create a separate function. I call it query params, that is going to be get price query params. Okay, in that I will pass here query params first of all, then I will pass in here the min, which is the key, and then the value that is also going to be min. Okay, so I will get this min from here. I will declare 2 variables here, const min and then set min. Okay, and then use state that is going to be empty, like this. And the same way I have here max. Okay, so min and max values. In the same way I will get the max here. Okay, so max, and then also this is also going to be max, and I simply copy that from here, create a new folder in the root that is called helpers. Okay, in that I create a new file that is called helpers.js. Okay, so I define here a function export const get price query params. Okay, in that I will have here my query params. Okay, params, then I have here my key, and then I have here my value. Okay, so first of all I have to type here const has value in param. So we'll check that if we have the value in the param with that key, So I will use here query params dot has, and in has I will pass in here my key. Also I put in here arrow. Okay, so now it will check that if we have the value in the param or not. So I will define here that if value exists, this value that we will pass, which is the min value or the max value. So if the min or max exists, and also we will check that it has value in param. Okay, so has value in param, this means that we have to simply update the value. So query param dot set, we will set in here key and the value. Okay, so if the value is present there, and also it is also present in the param, so this means that we have to update the value. So we will update that, else we have to append it. So I will type here query params dot append. Okay, and that I will pass in here the key and then value, and there is one more condition. Okay, so else, okay, so that is going to be else if only value exists, then we have to simply append that. Otherwise we will check that. Else if has value in param, then we simply have to delete it. So query param dot delete, and then I will pass in here the key. Okay, then I simply have to return from here this query params. Okay, so return from here the query params. Alright, so now I will simply import that here. So that is going to be if I just type here params, I will import that from helpers slash helpers. Okay, so now I have here my values. So what I will do is I will simply copy this from here and move the user to that route. Simply save this one, and now we have to use that. So I simply scroll down. Here we have our min and here is our max. So I type here value, that is going to be min, and then on change I have to set the minimum value. So I will set that here, that is going to be set min. In that I will type here e dot target dot value. In the same way I have here the max, so I will add that. That is going to be max, oops, max here, and then set max. Okay, and then on the click I have to call that handle click. So I simply type here on click. So on click I will simply type here handle button click. If I simply save it, now if I go back to my VS Code, so use state is not defined, we have to import that. So that is use state, simply save it. And now if I type here like 10, if I click here go, you can see that here we have min 10. If I type here max, that is 100, go, you can see that now we have max also in the params. If I remove this min from here, click on go, now we only have here max, the min is deleted. In the same way I can also type here something like this, min will come back. If I remove this, max will be deleted from the query. So this means that our price is working properly. If I go back, simply we have to where it is, we have to simply create a new function, pass in here the query params, then the key which is the min, and then the value which is also min. Okay, in the same we have max here. Now in that we will simply check that if the value is present in the query param or not with that key. If the value is there and also it has value in the param, this means that value is already present in the query. We simply have to update its value. So we will simply update that. Else if we will check that if the value is there, then we will simply append that. Otherwise if the value is in the parameters, then we will simply delete that from here, and then we will simply return these query params from here. And now in this way we have successfully implemented our price filter. Alright, so we will check that if user want to update its value, we will update that. If user want to add a new value, we will add that. At the end, if user don't want to update the value, don't want to add a new value, then we simply have to delete that value. Okay, simply save it. And now let's pass the values on the backend. So I simply type here price filter. So that is going to be price, then GTE, then LTE. For the GTE I will pass in here search params dot min value. Okay, so it should be greater than the minimum value, and it should be less than the maximum value. If I simply save it from here, let's go back. Now let's test it out. We have here, if I type I only want to get products that has minimum price of 100. If I click here go, you can see that I have only this product. Go to page number 1. These has values greater than 100. Okay, if I want to get the maximum value should be 200, go. Okay, then again we have the same result. Okay, if I type here the maximum value should be like 150, click on go. Now we have only this result here. So this means that our minimum and maximum filter is also working properly. Okay, if I remove this from here, click on go, I can select here electronics like this. In the same way I can apply this filter as well. All right, so now all the filters are working properly. I hope that you understand. If you have any question, you can post in the comment section. I will definitely reply there, and also you can get the source code of this video in the description of this video. All right, so in my next video I will implement the cart functionality. I will handle all the cart in my next video. All right, so that's it for this video. I will see you in the next lecture.